I'll tell you, I never lose. I just don't win today.
I'm already going through a lot of shit right now. Leave me the fuck alone.
Right.
Real shit.
It's true.
Fuck, going snatch what? What?
Since the legalization of sports betting in the US in 2018 and Canada 2021, there has been an insane amount of gambling on sports. You can bet on all kind of sports imaginable, from some of the more classics like the NFL, NHL, NBA, and MLB. You can also bet on golf, college sports in the US, the Olympics, motorsports, equestrian sports, esports, and even some political events, which are not sports, but is still insane. The message is always the same, and the thing that hooks everybody in is the prospect of winning big. Sports betting is exciting and enticing with just the prospect of winning alone, but the everyday realities of sports betting are far less glamorous. Sports betting is not just a game of chance, it's a carefully engineered consumer product that's designed to extract money from us. Unlike some consumer products where you walk away with something tangible like a shirt or a cup of coffee, you don't really walk away with anything in most cases. What we pay for is possibility, and sometimes anticipation or the emotional pull of what if. All of these are highly intangible. In today's video, we're going to unpack some of the elements of sports betting. Not all of them. This is a colossal topic that I feel like I'm just scratching the surface of, but we'll scratch it nonetheless. We'll talk about how it functions as a consumer product, who profits, and the entire predatory system that it relies on. We'll also talk about how it reflects some of the same engineered desire that we find in other markets or other niches, and that also drives a ton of consumer culture. We'll also talk about some neoliberal attitudes surrounding gambling at the very end. And this might be one of the more interesting angles of it, but you can be the judge of that. Let's first talk about the sports betting industry and sports betting as a hobby. Sports betting, first of all, is treated like a hobby for so many, and it's not a fringe hobby either. It's a multi-billion-dollar industry that's growing worldwide. Even though in today's video, we're going to be mostly focusing on the US and Canada, it is a worldwide hobby. Globally, online sports betting is projected to surpass $140 billion by 2030, with North America alone expected to generate over $45 billion annually. In Canada, the number is projected to double from about $4 billion from 2024 to about $9 billion in 2030. These numbers aren't abstract, and they represent real tangible things: lobbying dollars, marketing dollars, app development. The industry isn't just expanding its size, it has become an increasing part of our culture. And part of that is that betting itself is becoming a valid or more valid source of entertainment. And billions of these dollars that are being funneled into sports betting are changing or impacting how we act, think, and spend our money. So let's get into the hobby aspect of it, because sports betting is a hobby for some people. When you hear the word hobby, sports betting is not something that immediately springs to mind, at least for me. Yet the founders of these sports books are saying that it is, and I mean, they have a vested stake in getting us to believe it to be true or to in fact treat it as true. One specific founder talks about sports betting as a personal favorite pastime of his, which tracks because it's his job. It's how he makes money. And for many participants, it really is approached like a hobby. There are subcultures that have emerged around it. People share picks, they track stats and debate odds, follow trends, and some specialize in particular sports. Much like dedicated gamers, fantasy sports fans, or someone who follows finance or stock trading, bettors cultivate expertise and enjoy being part of a community that speaks the same language. For some, the appeal is analytical, like studying trends or analyzing matchups, beating the system, perhaps. For others, it's social and having that community aspect online, or comparing wins and losses or feeling like you're part of a club. Others are just so deeply invested into a sport, it just becomes an additional way to participate in that sport. And sports betting is similar to shopping as a hobby in a lot of respects, with only one of them being that you could have it as a hobby. You are most certainly allowed to, but there is so much destruction that can come in its wake if we are not careful. Just like people who collect sneakers or hunt for the latest finds at TJ Maxx, people who engage in sports betting can, not that they do or that they must, but they can spend more money than they intended by getting hooked on the spending and the participation itself. And people can get so immersed or hooked on this thing, as I was talking about, that doesn't provide long-term value or sustenance or fulfillment like other hobbies do. Sports betting can take more than it gives. Both groups can be chasing anticipation or emotions. They can be really stuck in pleasure or dopamine loops, and these can make these pastimes feel quite similar. And here's the kicker about sports gambling. These systems or these apps are designed to make you feel like you've got skill, but most participants lose money. The stats that are available on this, they're not quite precise, but the stats are something like 90 to 95 long-term bettors lose money. You're encouraged to get good at it, but all that really serves is to monopolize your time and attention and your money on a thing that gets you into a habit. Underneath it all, the structural incentives are about consumption, repetition, and ultimately profit, not enjoyment or long-term game, which can make it dangerous. Even when you do win, winning is always something on the horizon. What if I could win again? What if I could win more? And if you're not winning, maybe I could change my luck with the next game or the next prospect. And this keeps people enticed to keep playing and to keep their money in their accounts and keep going. Sports betting apps specifically are designed to reduce friction. One tap, one swipe, and you're in. Just think about that. If all you need to get into your betting app, whatever it is you're using, is a fingerprint or to sign into your Google account, that's scary easy. Notifications can remind you that a game's about to start or to, put in your next bet, perhaps even to bet live during a game you're already watching. Animations and flashy graphics reward micro wins too. And you can bet on freaking everything in sports. Psychologists call this a variable reward system or variable ration schedule. It's the same principle used in social media apps and mobile games to hook users. The anticipation, the unpredictability, the occasional win, it's engineered to make you stay and to keep engaging and spending. To be specific or more clear, all this really means is for rewards to happen at an unpredictable schedule. In sports betting specifically, since we're not playing a slot machine or roulette or something like that, we're having the variable schedule happen on our bets, and wins or big returns don't happen on a regular schedule. According to gambling research, partial reinforcement, sometimes you win, sometimes you don't, actually makes behavior more persistent than if rewards were guaranteed every time. This helps to explain why bettors continue to place bets even after many losses. The unpredictability itself is reinforcing. Modern sports betting apps allow you to bet on the granular details of the game. Next play will be a run or next play will be incomplete. Of course, the details of it vary per game. How many goals total will be scored in this game, or how many goals will this team lead by? How many goals in this period? This creates more frequent chances for the variable reward system. There's neuroscience supporting that uncertainty and not just rewards is deeply reinforcing. A 2023 research article described how variable rewards can mimic learning processes similar to those in substance addiction. The unpredictability activates dopaminergic signals to the brain. Behavioral neuroscience science studies, cues associated with rewards like anticipation of a win can lead to a particularly strong dopamine response, especially when probability of reward is around 50%. This means that even before the result of a bet is actually known, the anticipation can be rewarding. Does this sound familiar to anybody? I talk about this so much when it comes to shopping. There are very similar processes at play with both of them, in that it's some of these like anticipation responses that might happen differently in each of these instances. It's different, but it's still anticipation that can trigger a similar response. Over time, repeated exposure to these variable rewards can sensitize our brains, or specifically our brain's reward systems. Research shows unpredictability can heighten dopamine response to cues, making the habit harder to break. Sports betting is particularly precarious when you consider what people are betting on and the emotional stakes that are associated with sports, essentially. Some adults grow up watching the Leafs or the Celtics or the Blue Jays, like whoever it is, whoever. Maybe you went to games with your parents growing up and you've carried on that tradition with your child. Betting highlights the stakes of something you are already emotionally invested in. Watching the Blue Jays lose at home, Game 7, extra innings in the World frickin' Series would have been extra devastating if I had spent money on it. I believe they could win, but every fan believes their team is going to win, or they can win. This makes sports betting uniquely exploitative, in my opinion, anyway. Sportsbooks aren't selling tickets to games. They are enhancing or impacting the experience of being a fan. Sports betting directly impacts our emotions and our anticipation, and even the illusion of control. They may not be directly selling, but they're definitely impacting your experience as a fan. Your passion, your insights, or your belief as a fan are at play here and influencing your money. All of these things can directly translate to a financial reward. The marketing of this stuff plays into it too, and your identity as a fan. Psychologically, this is such a potent combination. As humans, we tend to overweigh emotionally charged outcomes. Sports betting hijacks those emotions and monetizes them. It directly turns your passion for a player or for a team and directly channels it and monetizes it. It turns passion from something that should be personal and social into a consumer product. Your emotional highs and lows are gamified, packaged, and sold back to you. And the more someone identifies with their team, the more personal the stakes feel, which can drive further engagement and as well further losses. A casual observer who watches the Super Bowl every year and places a $10 bet on whichever team they think is going to win, they might be able to shrug it off and say, no big deal, or it was just $10, or aren't really invested in the outcome. But a true diehard fan, the financial loss can compound the emotional disappointment. And it can keep people chasing this redemption or looking for redemption. The next game, the next bet, the next opportunity to prove themselves and their team. And these betting apps encourage this kind of thinking. The Score, which is a sports book that has ties to Toronto, proudly on their website says, "We empower the fan experience." It's directly suggesting that betting is entirely part of what makes being a fan better. It's great to love your team, or if you have deep passion for a team, that's fine. But sports betting turns leisure and this passion into nearly frictionless consumption that, in my opinion, preys on your love of the team, using the very feeling that makes sports so compelling to some people or so meaningful, and it becomes the method of extraction. I hope so far when I say that, sports betting is designed to be addictive, that I've at least proven that to a small degree. These apps are built with professionals and experts in the field using real psychology behind it and things that, in my opinion, Like they're using addictive components in order to build these apps and to keep people hooked on them. We've talked about a bit of the psychology, and I want to now kind of go more into the app side. Let's just kind of actually think a little bit outside of sports betting generally. Apps generally can track a lot of your data and your information. Sportsbooks are not all that different. And so they can track your behavior and give you personalized offers. There are limits, or I should say more limits on betting specifically, but they can still track your behavior and give you personalized offers. Every tap, every wager, every pause is tracked. Apps know how often you bet, what kind of bets you prefer, how much you stake, even the time of day you're most likely to play. The data feeds personalized offers, free bets, deposit matches, VIP perks, and push notification time to your routine. These apps are actively studying you and learning how to nudge you to place one more bet. Sports apps use something called dark patterns, which are design tricks meant to push behavior. Suggested bets are pre-filled with high stakes. Withdrawals can be more difficult than deposits, and pop-ups push you to bet again immediately after a loss. If you have experience in an app and you know, let's say it takes 5 to 7 days to withdraw and you have money in there and there's a game on the weekend that's in 5 to 7 days, well, the $100 is still in here. Why not place a bet on the Dolphins, whoever it is you're watching? No shade to the Dolphins. The more you play, the more these apps can attempt to make you feel rewarded with these specialized offers. VIP perks, loyalty points, all of that. All of this can make it feel like maybe you're gaining more expertise, you're gaining more skill. No, these rewards encourage bigger bets and more frequent plays. All of this keeps your money in their system and your losses coming. Advertising and app design reinforces the illusion that it's a skill, or that success is a matter of skill, I should say. Here is an example of what I mean by this. In 2024, BetMGM launched a second chance campaign. It was intended, in my opinion, to get people to open their wallets and then keep them open. Their promotion was a bit like an insurance policy. So if a customer's first prop bet didn't land, they'd get a second chance. And people felt comfortable or secure betting because they got a second chance. It wasn't quite like a money guarantee, but that's how a lot of people felt like it. And there were other parallels in the market, like as an example, not the same but similar, like a money back guarantee. Like if you buy something and you don't love it in 30 days, you get your money back. These companies know that only a certain amount of people, if they don't like it, are going to return it, but more people are going to be incentivized to buy it because they have that reassurance that if they don't, they can send it back. Unlike traditional casinos, these sports books are on your phone and available 24/7. They're often used in isolation or when people are alone. And if you do go to a casino or like a physical, like sportsbook, you used to have to bet in person. If you go to one of those in-person places, even if you're by yourself, you're still with other people. You're not technically isolated. But with online sports books, you can bet by yourself. There's no line at the counter. There's nobody really monitoring you or social cues to stop. The combination of early access, data-driven nudges, emotional highs, gamified design makes it remarkably easy for users to slip into cycles of repeated play, sometimes without realizing how much money or time they've spent. Let's talk about some of the players now. The big three: DraftKings, MGM, and FanDuel. These are all billion-dollar conglomerates, and their profits are enormous. The machine behind sports betting is so big, like it's huge. Just to get a little bit of perspective on how much the industry has grown and just how big some of these companies are, just a few pieces of information. In Massachusetts alone, TV ad spending went from $21 million in 2019 to over $314 million in 2022, a 14-fold increase in just 3 years. The federal law in the US that prohibited sports betting turned over in 2018. And so states one at a time legalized sports betting. So 2019 would have been the first year that sports betting could have been aired, hence the increase. and increasing over time. Online, 4 major sports books accounted for nearly 90% of ad impressions in 2023, and they all push a uniform: you could win big, beat the odds, and get rich. One analysis by CBC Marketplace and the University of Bristol found that sports viewers in Ontario spent an average of 22% of each game looking at gambling ads in some form, with the vast majority plastered directly on the court, play surface, or rink itself. In one Raptors Bulls broadcast, nearly 40% of the game has sports betting ads somewhere on the screen. DraftKings spends hundreds of $millions a year. Here's just one example. It's so crazy. They spent roughly $197.5 million on advertising in Q2 of 2023 alone. One quarter, $200 million. This was part of one of their multi-year kind of like heavy quarter pushes where they're like trying to expand. During the first 3 weeks of the 2024 NFL season, DraftKings spent $36.4 million and FanDuel spent $27.1 million and BetMGM $11.5 million. These are the industry 3 biggest players on TV ads. The start of the NFL season is when, and I quote, many sports betting customers decide which brand they're going to bet with over the course of the season. You'll see more advertising in the month of September than you will in any other month outside of the Super Bowl. The ads from the sports books are largely the same, or they were super celebrity dependent for a long time, and we still do see them, or celebrities involved. There's been a bit of a change in that. We'll see in just a second, but more so in the US than in Canada. The celebrities are still used, and there are celebrities that are still being signed. However, like that might still be a bit of a generalization because how that works and like who can endorse a sports book is going to depend on like the state or the province. However, a lot of the sports books follow similar formats. They'll use celebrities to endorse their platform, and then they'll also provide incentives like specific money bonuses for bets, or like you can have X amount of money for bets over X amount of bets. Like they all have their own promotional programs. Some of these sports books also offer free trials to like specific sports services like NFL Plus and NFL Sunday Ticket. The free trial of these services is actually a really smart move on their part, like when we consider that if you are a football fan, then you are more engaged and more likely to bet if you're watching the game. There's so much money poured into these ads. I saw it a lot when I was watching the NHL playoffs last year, or I guess technically this year, where somebody's like winning so much. I think it's BetMGM that like it's constantly like the prizes are constantly going off. Oh, like they're winning. All of this money is poured into getting you to bet. However, if you actually become a knowledgeable bettor, and this also applies to online casinos because MGM, they do have sports betting, but you can also like play in their online casinos too. And the moment you get good at betting, these companies start limiting your bets. They'll like limit your account or how much you can stake at a time. There are so many stories out there about people like this who got good and experienced something like this. Some people even got like kicked off systems altogether. The people who are most likely to consistently win are excluded.
It's cool when y'all do it, but it's a problem when we do it. It's cool when y'all take our money, right? It's cool when guys like Tyrese Halliburton and players in the past get hurt in the first 5 minutes of the game and you don't want to avoid their bets. But when it's time for y'all to pay up, now it's a problem.
Bettors say that DraftKings promised risk-free betting, but if you lost, you didn't actually get your money back. DraftKings argued, well, it's in the fine print somewhere. But the judge said, no, if you don't have key terms in a place that people can see them and they're buried somewhere in the hidden print, that could still be misleading marketing. The court ruled just because the information exists doesn't mean it's clear or honest. This case is moving forward on a class basis, not just a New Jersey class.
These companies promote this idea to you and like they literally sell it to you. They sell you a dream. They sell you a fantasy. The moment you start acting a sliver like that fantasy, they cut you off. On top of that, the industry and its affiliated groups spend millions of dollars a year lobbying. They want to keep the regulatory environment friendly to expansion and whatever other things they want. When you consider all of this together, the colossal marketing budgets we can't gloss over because it means that they can pay almost anybody that they want to get them to promote them. So they can craft specific images. And if they have so much money, that buys them so much leverage and power, including lobbying power. We have to talk about influencer and celebrity culture a little bit more because it has invaded sports betting like no other. In the early days of sports betting in Ontario specifically, BetMGM was, I think, the most notorious for this. Like, they had Wayne Gretzky and Connor McDavid. I saw Wayne Gretzky's face freaking everywhere. Like on every freaking go bench. I feel like I couldn't go anywhere without seeing him. And then you look and there'd be Connor McDavid, man. And Austin Matthews was partnered with Bet99. I'm talking about a specific few NHL examples that are particularly pertinent in Ontario, but they're not the only ones. Like, so many celebrities have agreed to be in these commercials and to promote these sports books, people you never would have thought of, like Vanessa Hudgens, David Schwimmer, Conor McGregor kind of made sense, I guess. You also had Jamie Foxx, The Rock, Kevin Hart, so many celebrities out of the sports world who were promoting sports books. Oh yeah, John Hamm too. One of the craziest examples I found researching for this video is that Kevin Hart and his daughter partnered with Chase Bank to promote financial literacy to Black youth. They began this partnership in 2024. Like, they had an Instagram series talking with each other about financial literacy. Kevin Hart went to go speak at a high school earlier in 2025 related to this series and financial literacy. Last year, he partnered with DraftKings to work on a sports betting ad for the Super Bowl. These two things are a little bit antithetical in my opinion. Like, financial literacy and sports betting, they don't mesh. Those two like, I just would not expect somebody who cares so deeply about financial literacy to then also advocate for sports betting. Not doing it alone on your own time, but actually put your face as a name for sports betting. The recruitment of pro athletes for sports betting is so fucking slimy. Athletes should be nowhere near sports betting. Ontario was the first province in Canada to put significant restrictions on this. I am convinced that without this, we would still be seeing those Wayne Gretzky, Connor McDavid ads. The primary reason, and I quote, why athletes and gambling should not mix is because of their significant influence on younger audiences. As role models, athletes could unduly encourage minors to participate in gambling activities, which raise concerns about fostering unhealthy gambling behavior. This move is part of the broader effort to protect minors and limit the risks associated with gambling addiction. There are a number of studies about how pervasive gambling is before these gambling apps basically became in people's pockets. I have a couple of examples for you. In a study of more than 18,000 students attending Minnesota Public School, 82.7% of the 12th grade boys and 58.7% of the 12th grade girls had gambled in the past year. 22.7% of the boys and 5% of the girls had gambled weekly or more often. In a telephone survey of just over 1,100 New York State's youth ages 13 to 17 years old, sorry, that's a mouthful, you're going to see it on the screen. They reported that 75% of adolescents had gambled in the past year and that 15% gambled weekly or more often. Children, youth, we should not be making it easier for the youth to gamble. The consequences for gambling are so real. People can end up in debt or financial hardships, which leads to a whole host of other problems, which can include stress, physical manifestations of such stress, as well as mental ones. People can develop compulsive gambling behavior. Yet the system frames losses as personal failings. And these companies often promote, gamble within your limits, those kinds of things, while actively doing everything in their power to not have you do that. Like putting a sign or putting a phone number for Gamblers Anonymous, or a number you can call if you're, struggling, is we're the good guys, we understand, yet you're doing everything in your power to get these people hooked. Here's some research for you. The research shows that gamblers have greater credit card debt, more overdrawn bank accounts, lower credit scores, and up to 30% more bankruptcy filings. Financially strained households are the most affected by these trends, and gamblers have high rates of suicide and suicidal ideations. One Canadian study of people who recently attempted to quit gambling showed that almost 40%, 4 in 10 of participants had thought about suicide, and 33% had made an attempt. 33%, a full third of people. A more recent Swedish study showed that people with problem gambling had a rate of suicide mortality that was 15 times higher than the rest of the population. If you can sense that I'm angry here, I'm not blaming the individuals at all. I am blaming the system. And we're going to talk more about some other factors near the end. Hold tight. There has been a cultural shift over the past, I would say 20 to 30 years, and gambling, most especially since 2010, the increasing presence of the internet and companies getting more sophistication, the rise of the app kind of thing has made gambling much more pervasive than it ever has been and easier, as we've discussed. It's moved beyond casinos and sports betting. It's on fast fashion websites. It's in video games as well as games specifically designed for children, which is nasty. There are also elements of it that I think have enticed people into blind boxes as well as things like Lucky Scoops. Many children today are growing up in a culture of gambling being normal. It isn't just that children are seeing celebrities and sports stars on their TV or on their phone when they're watching games. They're engaging with systems that reward chance, risk, and repetition from a young age. Think about loot boxes in video games. Kids spend real virtual currency hoping to unlock rare items, or collectible toys, surprise packs, and other chance-based systems that mimic gambling mechanics. Psychologists have raised concerns about this exposure. Research suggests that early experiences with games of chance increase the likelihood of problem gambling later in life. A 2020 study from the University of Waterloo found that engagement with gambling-like mechanisms in video games and apps was associated with higher risk of gambling in adolescence and young adulthood. The more we see something, the more normal we can feel like it is. When something holds power, it becomes natural and normal and invisible. We don't even see gambling as a problem if it's literally everywhere. We stop to question these things. It really can distort our sense of normalcy and normal behavior. Children can internalize this not through some kind of instruction of do this, do this, do this, but their own lived experience, or it being framed as skill or entertainment or fun. And these systems are engineered to be rewarding and habit forming. This early exposure can prime children for engaging with and being enticed or interested in these betting apps when they get older. This normalization interacts with consumer culture. I want to be really clear about this. Just as kids are taught that products, trends, or experiences define identity, they're also taught that risk, chance, and spending on uncertainty is a part of life. It's just the way that life is. And the companies behind these systems, billion-dollar conglomerates with massive marketing budgets, are banking on that early conditioning, in my opinion. 83% of Canadians believe it's up to the individual to control their gambling habits. And this comes from an Ipsos poll. On its face, this may sound like personal accountability, but I argue that it is exactly how these gambling companies want us to frame things, because it extricates them from their accountability. What I mean is that if people believe it's on the person, it's on the individual, it shifts blame around, really excusing the companies and all of this research they have at their disposal, the predatory design, all of the system. This belief in personal responsibility is really in line with neoliberal logic, that individuals alone are responsible for their choices. To take that a step further, not just how they gamble, but how they shop, how they spend their money, or their habits. We hear this everywhere outside of gambling. You don't like Starbucks, don't shop there. You don't like Sephora, don't shop there. I mean, those are some recent examples that might apply to regular viewers of this channel. If you don't like it, don't watch it. If you don't like it, don't do it. Sure, that may be part of it, but it keeps us framed on the individual. The danger is that gambling and in other consumer systems, this thinking becomes a tool of the industry. When people lose and it's framed as a moral or personal failure rather than the predictable outcome of a carefully engineered system, that makes it socially acceptable to ignore predatory practices, regulatory gaps, and manipulative marketing. Over time, this creates an us versus them dynamic. Those who succeed or opt out are responsible, while those who struggle are irresponsible or even morally weak. It isolates people, discourages collective action, and lets companies operate with minimal accountability, all while claiming they're giving choices and freedom. After this video already started going into production, I saw one from CoffeeZilla, which I'm going to link in the description because he is amazing. He is truly an independent researcher, and he's mostly in like the crypto fintech space. He's also like dabbled into other topics. He has a second channel called Voidzilla, which like recently, just as an example, he talked about the Epstein files. If those topics interest you, you probably already know about them, but if not, go check them out. And he was talking about gambling. And one of the things that he was talking about was that these companies have so much money that they're offering influencers, not the Rocks and the Jamie Foxxes of the world, but like average influencers $1 million to promote gambling or the sports betting. I'm talking about YouTubers and other influencers. $1 million is a stupid amount of life-changing money. Think about if $1 million were to fall into your lap, how life-changing that could be for you. That kind of money corrupts people. And there are instances of people who are either anti-gambling or just don't gamble, like going on record and saying that they would advertise for these sports books for that kind of money. CoffeeZilla really highlights the magnitude of this problem. Maybe you never thought about doing it before, but the mental gymnastics start happening really quickly. And we can start feeling like it's no big deal, like nothing really is going to happen. We can start to rationalize what we're doing, minimize the harms. We can believe that we're not part of the problem, or ultimately that your audience will be fine. That is corruptibility. What this is an example of, I think, is that many people can be bought if we just find the right point. Security, debt, opportunity, fame, financial stability even. The promise that one deal could change their life. These companies know that and they leverage it. It is so scary to have people with this much wealth knowing exactly how to hit the right pressure point on a person. What I'm hoping that I'm building up to, or what maybe you've already drawn parallels for, is that this is not just gambling. It shows up everywhere in the consumer system. Fast fashion brands do it, energy drink brands do it, beauty brands do it, tech brands do it, and so many influencers as well, celebrities, just one partnership. It's no big deal. People with genuine conviction or belief about something can end up promoting something that they never thought that they would. Like one step leads to another, leads to another, leads to another. They do it because the offer is so good. The risk feels low, maybe, or just it's too big of a deal to pass up. To me, this shows the entire problem with the sponsorship ecosystem, or just the sponsorships generally. So when we talk about sports betting, we're not only talking about an industry with massive marketing budgets and extremely deep pockets, we're talking about a structural power imbalance where corporations can buy cultural influence at a scale individuals simply cannot match. This is a true David and Goliath dynamic. I don't mean the gamblers or people who participate in gambling. I mean the companies. They are the giants who have nearly endless wealth, which buys so much, including cultural capital, including political power, including lobbying power, which can physically shape our lives. They can sometimes have endless reach. And it's a system that's so optimized and so effective, it recruits even the people who said that they'd never. And if we think that this is just about gambling, we are sorely mistaken.